Hello, don't go anywhere. This is the wrong place, but it might turn out to be the right one. You're here with Joe, and
Akash, and you're listening to the We've Got
we've got
Nothing
nothing
Left.
left podcast. Oh, I thought
I,
we were saying that
I thought I was going to say it.
together. Oh, all right. Let's just go get
Let's
into it.
just go. Cool.
Right.
Oh, hello.
Oh my goodness. That was very like Siri. Sorry, the
Yeah, our little recording in progress. The people
you're
listening don't
recording
have
in
no
progress.
idea. We have a little surprise for you guys today on the We've Got Nothing podcast. We've Got Nothing Left podcast. It's been so long, I've forgotten what the name is. Do
They've
you want
actually
to?
got nothing left now. They've actually lost the whole person.
Yeah,
So
yeah, literally. We have lost the person. Joe is he's not lost. He's just he's busy doing stuff for the podcast, obviously, off the side, and
yeah,
we've had to
he's
bring in.
actually editing this in real time.
Yeah, you might actually, because I have no idea what to do, so I might have to be like, Joe, can you edit this for us? If he is, he's gonna be very annoyed probably. But rest
Oh,
assured, I have got a backup for you. I've got a decoy of Joe, who's known Joe for most of his life. I present Joe Arrowsmith from the Twin Dynamo podcast. I've forgotten his name of his podcast.
hello.
How are you doing, Joe?
I'm okay, thank you. Yeah, yeah. No, we us Joes have this weird thing where, like, in the absence of one, you can just sort of sprout another off of you. It's like a
Yeah,
biological mechanism.
yeah.
So I'm actually a biological growth that just came
Yeah,
off of
you're like
Joe about a week ago.
A metacrisis Fitzpatrick. Um, that's a good
Yeah, I'm
way of
actually
saying
two
that.
weeks old.
Yeah,
I've not experienced much in life, but I watched
yeah,
this episode, so it's fun.
yeah, exactly. And what better thing to watch? For context, we were always going to have Joe on this podcast. A bit confusing to have referring to Joe as in Joe from the Twin Dilemma. We were always going to have him on the podcast. We were hoping, which we will do at some point, a little joint venture with Twin Dilemma. But people get busy, things happen, so we've got a little cheeky crossover like the Time Crash for all you guys with us too. So yeah,
Like
we'll see
time
how it
crash, yeah.
goes. Yeah, yeah, we'll see how chaotic it is because we've never done a podcast before, really. But
No, but I mean yeah, it's good. I mean, to answer your question, I'm doing okay. I'm feeling good. I just watched the episode again,
yeah,
and I felt that it was necessary in sort of recall, but also necessary for a more accurate critical lens.
yeah,
Um,
yes,
I watched it on Christmas Day. I'd had a few drinks naturally, and like a lot of us probably did, and I really enjoyed it. That being said, I didn't really enjoy the Church on Ruby
but
Road on an initial watch.
oh
So
yes,
maybe the
yeah,
drinks doesn't really matter in terms of the critical lens, but yeah, I watched it and I really enjoyed it, and I was like, right, okay, it's good to go back and watch it again just to check if I wasn't just like
yeah.
swayed by the warm embrace of alcohol on the first
And
watch.
what was the verdict on the second watch?
I still thought as a script it was pretty strong in terms of like level of engagement that
Yeah,
was evoked.
yeah.
Like, I think with the church on Ruby Road, I don't know why I'm just swaying to this as a direct point of comparison already. But yeah, with the church on Ruby Road, I suppose there was more of an anxiety around the new era and more of a culture shock. Because that's definitely not the right term, but there was a bit of a culture shock around the new era and the new feel of it.
Yeah,
Um, Whereas with this, we're more warmed in and to this sort of like shooty stuff. So I think I took to it more naturally in that sense. But in terms of like just looking at the episode, I thought it was, yeah, as I said, very engaging. Like it was almost like there was this constant there's always a sequence that was happening that was really engaging. So like he
yeah.
gets there, and then there's the sort of immediate mystery of the briefcase,
Hmm.
and then there's the scene in the hotel where they meet Joy and the suitcase attached to her, and then he speaks to the future version of himself, the Doctor, and that's obviously engaging for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And then he's stranded on Earth, and then there's the bit with the ending with the star, and the bit in the elevator where he like psychoanalyzes her to like break the hallucination. And I guess there's all of this sort of constantly engaging scenes happening all the time.
Yeah.
So in a sense, I thought it was paced really well. I
Yeah,
suppose
I
is one thing I
completely
would say
get.
about
I completely get where you're coming from. I didn't watch the episode beforehand to prepare because I've seen it twice, but I watched the Unleashed, which I hadn't seen fully, so I sort of was finishing watching that. And what they mentioned was that the briefcase acts as a MacGuffin, like the One Ring in Lord of the Rings or the Philosopher's Stone. It's this device which keeps the plot going, the location of the briefcase with the starseed.
it.
I
Right.
think
Yeah.
it's a very smart way of keeping the plot going and utilizing time travel and putting it in different spots. Because it was interesting in the beginning, its sort of properties, if we want to go a bit further into that, of how it sort of kind of like subconsciously possesses the host that it handcuffs on. And from my point of view, it sort
Yeah.
of like drains them of their own life energy, and then they sort of burn up in star energy and become part of the star. So at first it was a bit like, oh, that bartender character, oh, he's gone. Well, I didn't really know him. And then obviously Trev, which I'm sure everyone loved. I really like
Oh,
the actor. Yeah, that was tough. Um,
Trev. I watched him in Plebs actually. That was my like.
I
That's
really,
my only other exposure to him. Yeah.
yeah. He was in Game of Thrones as well, and he played a slightly more
Ah,
serious
right.
character, but he's good at comedy. I actually thought he was going to be the villain all along, so I don't know
Really?
what that says about me. Maybe from the trailers, which didn't really reveal too much about this episode. But yeah, obviously we then transitioned from Trev into Joy, who was the main companion for this Christmas special, played by Nicola Coughlan, is it? From Dairy Girls. And yeah, it was sort of giving vibes of
Mm.
Catherine Tate in Runaway Bride. At least that's what I took from it, having this sort of guest companion. And yeah, she obviously has natural chops for comedy. I thought on paper she would have a really good back and forth with Shooty. But I mean, I already know you're gonna agree with me on this one because we've talked about it in the group chat, but she has been completely overshadowed by the appearance of another sort of interim companion for the Doctor, and it really has confused
Yeah.
my perception of Joy. We can get on Anita in a bit, but I'm curious to think of what you thought of Joy as a companion in the Christmas special and yeah, her story.
I think you're sort of spot on there with her being overshadowed by Anita. Um, I think she sort of is more um, uh, intertwined with the plot. However, I do think we get more character insight in terms of Joy because you get that scene in the elevator
Yeah.
where shooting. I know as a psychoanalysis, it's a bit of a stretch saying that like your hotel room is like a direct reflection of your
Yeah.
relationship with yourself and stuff like that. But
100.
yeah, I think that having stuff in the script like that
Yeah.
sort of serve in terms of saying this is who this character is and this is some insight on this character
Yeah.
it is sort of a bit providing a bit more of a focus on that character.
Yeah.
And I think obviously we've got the stuff with the COVID storyline and her, is it her
Her
nan,
mum. Her
was
mum.
that's her mum, right?
Yeah,
Literally
funny
watched
enough.
it about 20 minutes ago. um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, having that storyline as well, I think there it gives a bit more emotional substance and as an audience member, a bit of an emotional connection to Joy as a
Yeah.
character. But I do think I think part of why Anita is so engaging is first of all because you've got the Doctor on Earth.
Mm.
And I think there's a bit of a subversion of expectation in that because we obviously didn't expect that to happen.
Yeah.
And it's sort of quite nice and Christmassy seeing him in that domestic setting and sort of
Yes.
building a relationship with someone. There's sort of a warm optimism about it.
Yeah.
But I also think that there is a subversion of expectation in her having that level of involvement in the story. Because when she first appears in the hotel room, she's almost like this comic relief, like shallow
Yeah.
character.
She's really background. I barely noticed her
Yeah.
until that. Yeah.
Yeah, and she also is presented in a way that's almost like she's just a bit of a simple human background character. Like the way
Yeah.
that she comments isn't really bothered by the fact there's a Silurian in the room and
Yeah.
stuff like that. It's almost like this commentary on humanity, just sort of like going along with things, and oh, that's a bit
Yeah.
weird, but we'll just sort of, you know. So
Brain
I
rot.
think it was quite cool having um, her character expanded in a way that we really didn't expect.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that is part of why that stuck with people more, a bit more than Joy, perhaps.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was sort of Anita was just more relatable, I think. Like even though you didn't get a backstory into her history, the montage really helped in sort of really showcasing her chemistry with the Doctor, which we didn't really see with Joy because it was a little bit more serious
Mm,
at points, you know,
absolutely, yeah.
because it was definitely a brave choice to mention her backstory with her mum and like her sort of depression potentially that she has underneath the surface. Like even though she is really like bubbly in times, I felt like um uh, Anita had the advantage in a sense that she didn't have that necessary like that's not even a word, but that I just make up words on this
It's
podcast
working.
to sound smart. Yeah, but you know how I'm trying to think of baggage as the correct word. I don't want to like say
Yeah,
it
literally got the
insensitively.
suitcase. There you go.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah.
visual
Bags of
representation.
time. Moffat loves his puns, doesn't he? Jesus. And then he's like, yeah, we'll get onto him later. But yeah, I think overall it was just really it harkened back to me to another time of Doctor Who. I did get vibes of Ten and Donna from it. You know, it was just two mates, they're having a little they're talking, they're doing playing games next to each other, and they're just sort of they have this really good back and forth, and they're stuck with each other. You know, it's not like it was supposed to happen. And yeah, I just think because also Anita, in my opinion, I might be uncultured, but she was more of an unknown actor, uh, and
Right.
compared to like Nicola, I think maybe that helped people like I don't
Like
know,
with the
like
human element sort of thing. Like,
yeah, maybe distinguish her. Yeah, and I found it more fun than anything else in the episode. It was my favorite part of the episode. I wrote down as my last comment, I said, without Anita and that Doctor montage, I think this episode would have been much more sort of worse and less fun.
yeah.
And I really think that she has space to come back into the show, whether it is as a companion or a villain. I think the possibilities are endless, but I think it would be a real shame to cut her short there. I know that they give the invite to the Time Hotel later on, which I kind of like felt was a bit, we kind of robbed
Ooh.
us. You know, I wanted her to have a taste of, you know, uh, oh, she didn't even get a taste of time and space. I don't even know if the Doctor really talked about it. I think she was just amazed by him. Like, so I would like to see her obviously have that taste of time and space. And
I mean, she knows what the TARDIS looks like without knowing
yes,
what the TARDIS is. So you could
yes,
sort of get a moment where she sort of finds the TARDIS, a bit like Sarah Jane in School Reunion.
yeah,
But she's
yeah,
like, hang on, that's the thing that he gave me. And then he
yeah.
steps out of it and she's like, oh my fucking God. Like that,
Honestly,
or she sort of gravitates towards it because she knows what it, she recognizes it and then goes inside and it's like, oh
yeah,
my God, that
yeah.
would be cool.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And I honestly could go on and talk about her for ages. I can make this entire podcast about her. I don't know what it is intrinsically that makes her so likable. Like I'm still trying to figure it out as I'm speaking. You've seen the
Right,
episode a
yeah.
bit more
Yeah, I know what
recently
you
than
mean.
me. So I don't know if I've missed anything in what I've talked about her, but she's just nice, I guess. I don't know.
I think it's almost this thing of like there's a, for me, in my observation, like having just watched it, there's an element of subtlety about her character.
Yeah,
Like she's nice, but not overtly nice. Like, and it's not in a way where the script feels like it's trying to force you into that perception in any way.
Yeah.
It's just like she's quite a humble, quite a sort of, I don't know.
She's companion material, you know. That's a good way of putting it, because the Doctor only travels with like nice people like that, especially like in the older episodes. He kind of mentioned that, and I think that's why people were fantasizing about it, because she seemed more layered in that way. And just to add, I feel like there's obviously a lot of emotional points with 15 and Shooty in this episode, with the Silurians' death, with something else probably.
Yeah.
But
What did you think of that?
what with the Silurian death?
Yeah, and his sort of like the
His
poignancy
reaction
of
to
his
it.
reaction.
It was definitely a good performance, don't get me wrong. I was really, really positive and glad to see the Silurians again. So
The first Russell Silurian as well.
yeah,
In
yeah.
so many stories, you
Does it
know.
count? Yeah, because it's a Russell era, so it does count as a Russell Silurian, I guess. It's just, I
Yeah.
just felt like I made this joke of how like it was emulating 10 when the master dies and he's like holding him in his arms and just like crying. And I was just like, it's completely unfounded. I just found it insane that he was getting. I can see why the Doctor would get emotional if an endangered species that he hasn't seen for so long is dying in front of him. But as an audience character, especially for people that are just, because I assume a lot of people tune into the Doctor Who Christmas special but don't actually watch the series because it's Christmas Day, you know, you just watch what's on the telly. So I think if
Yeah.
anything, Christmas Day is one of the biggest days for the show, like comparable to like anniversary specials. And it's just a bit like
Yeah.
he's just crying over a lizard guy that you barely knew compared comparing that to Anita when he says goodbye to Anita, like even thinking about that now, it really tugs at your heartstrings because he's really trying not to crack. And that's when his best performance comes when he tries and holds it in, which he did with Ruby when she left. I think that's so much better than when he just has like tears down his eyes because as an audience member, you don't really feel what he's going through. Yes, he's demonstrating emotion, which is, as you said in your podcast, a really good um it's a really good moment of growth for the Doctor from 14 to 15 when he didn't really show his emotions, and then 15 is doing it. I have no issue
Yeah.
at all with him showing emotion, but it has become he does it when the storylines aren't that fulfilled, so it really kind of like lessens the moment for me. But with Anita, it felt a lot more justified than the Silurian, but I'm curious to think of what you thought with the whole Silurian. Yeah.
I mean, I
So-
think I think yeah, what you're kind of spot on with. I think is the unnatural element.
Yeah.
I actually, it's funny you mentioned Tennant because what I thought when I watched it were as a sort of, I suppose, a way of challenging the moment
Mm.
was, could I see other doctors doing this? And I
Yes,
know
I
you
do that.
sort of said, yeah, I sort of do that, and
Yeah.
I think it's a sort of a way that we torture ourselves as Doctor Who fans because doctors are all different,
Of
and sort of
course.
trying to comprehend this thing of people that are all different are the same person in your head.
Yeah.
It's like you're
Yeah.
never going to really scratch that itch for me.
Mm, mm, mm.
Um, but you know, despite that, I do think there's a bit of lack of consistency in character, regardless, even within this incarnation. Because, you know, this Doctor has seen death in passing plenty of times
Yeah.
already
Yeah. Yeah.
and hasn't reacted this way every time. So
Yeah.
then that sort of leads you to think, well, why is it this Silurian that the Doctor is having this reaction to? Um, but I think in reality, it's probably just a case of Moffat wanted to put it in the script to sort of demonstrate the Doctor's deep sort of philosophical care about life and
Yeah.
death that's
Yeah.
not fair. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's sort of like a wasted life and that's why he's sad, is because he's just given this briefcase and now he's dead.
If
And
you
that's it.
replaced the Silurian with Trevor, it would have enhanced the episode 10 times. If you put Trevor there instead, because you could see
Yeah.
why he would have that reaction to Trevor. They had such a good back and forth in the beginning of the episode, and he was instantly likable, the same as Anita. Another weird thought has popped into my head actually, which I wrote down. It is so minute, but it's when he orders the ham and cheese toasty and Trev's there, and he literally just sonics the menu, and the food comes. That's not an issue for me. It's the fact that in the canon lines have been ruptured, so nothing means anything. But in the canon, the Doctor never has any money. He doesn't have money. So I don't get how his
So,
Sonic has he developed an app now where he just has contactless on it. Like I get the mirroring of normal society, but it's the second time he's done it because the first time he did it was in the Devil's Court, where he just buys cups of tea from one of Susan Twist's avatars. And that really annoyed me as well because I'm like, you don't have money, mate. Like I don't know.
I guess for me it checks out, and I guess the way I would sort of try to explain that to myself is that a lot of the all of these things are sort of like technological systems, aren't they? Like a contactless
Yes,
system, or like,
numbers.
and I
Yeah,
guess you just sort of hack the system and
L
just
like 10 does with the ATM in the Runaway Bride. Yeah, I can get behind that then.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I suppose you could sort of like just be like, yeah,
he's hacked it of some
you've
sort. Yeah,
you've hacked it, you've made it think that you've put some money in there when you haven't,
yeah,
sort of thing.
yeah.
But I wonder how much inflation the Doctor has caused by just creating money that doesn't exist. It's just come from
Yeah,
nowhere.
but I mean, what are your thoughts on like the Sonic being overpowered in recent times? I
I
don't
think
know.
nothing is going to top David Tennant
It's
making a
force
massive
field.
shield out. Yeah,
He just never does it again. That was
yeah.
ridiculous. That was absolutely ridiculous.
That made me worried. But I
Yeah,
was kind of excited by that because I like the idea of the Sonic being a more
evolving.
physical instrument that you can
Yes.
sort of do these different things with.
Like,
And
yeah, for sure.
we was
Yeah.
almost mocked into thinking that I don't know. Well, we were sort of led to believe, weren't we, that that was going to be just increase with this new Sonic
Yes.
design. That
Yeah,
it has
yeah,
all this
yeah.
sort of like versatility in different bits
Yeah,
and like, and you
functions.
sort of, yeah, yeah. You think that's what it's going to lead to? Like,
Yeah,
there's going to be all these different functions, but that's not really been explored.
that's not been the case. I've actually noticed he's done the shield before. We're slightly going off tangent, but he did the shield
Yeah, no way.
before in the 50th anniversary when they fight the Dalek in the painting. Do you remember that sequence when they push the Dalek outside
Oh yeah, they
the
sort of
time
laser
thing?
him out, don't they?
Yeah, I kind of realized that's both happened in both anniversary specials, maybe to make the anniversary seem a bit more cinematic and exciting. So
Well, it's
if
like a box ticked as well, isn't it? Having a Sonic moment, having like a
yes,
really cool Sonic moment.
yeah, exactly. So I think yeah, I can get behind it. I think the Sonic was fine. I'll be nitpicking if I said, oh, a hologram of Trevor coming from the Villengard system annoyed me because really it just kept the story
Mm.
going, which was good, like you said. I guess the other thing that naturally we've come onto is the inclusion of Villengard as the villain, because I kind of have
Mm.
an issue in the sense that if you took out Villengard from this, it would make no difference to the episode.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's right. I didn't really understand why. I mean, I suppose they were testing a product, weren't they,
Yes.
with the Star Seed. Um, but yeah, I think what sort of rubs me the wrong way about it is the social commentary of it. And I don't want to sort of feed
Yeah.
this community aspect of being so adverse to social commentary because I don't think it's that on the nose or like
Mm.
unimaginative or anything like that. I just think it's a thing of like there's certain moments like where the Doctor says everything must logo or something like that. I just
Yeah.
think this anti-commercialism, blah blah. It's a bit like I don't know why it makes me eye roll. It just does.
No, I get it. And I even got it from the inclusion of the sort of COVID deaths during Christmas. Obviously, that was horrible.
Right?
Obviously, that's
Yeah.
a fact that
Similar thing.
happened. But it's when it's almost Doctor Who going political, and my whole idea of it is so tough. Obviously, the show is escapism, going to like faraway
You're
lands,
thinking exactly what I'm
communions.
thinking.
Yeah, but equally, they do go in history and they do showcase things that have happened. I guess it is the way it's handled, really. You can do those things if it's
Mm.
handled correctly, and there are just moments of I don't know if cringe is the particularly right word, but it's just
I think it takes you out of it, doesn't it? It's
yeah,
like
yeah,
it brings it down to earth a bit too much, because it's like, oh, suddenly we're in the world that we all live in every day,
yeah,
and the
yeah,
commentary that we're all surrounded by every day. Where, yeah, this is a sci-fi fantasy program,
yes,
kind of like you said with the escapism. So
yeah. We also like live in a society. That sounds like Joker, but we live in a society. Yeah, we live in
full
a
stop.
society. Yeah, we live in a society where people get put down for like being upstanding of like those messages, like those social messages and stuff, and then we almost feel a little bit like uh, embarrassed when that comes up in our favorite sci-fi TV show because the amount of people that will be like, "Oh,
Right.
Doctor Who is woke now. Doctor Who is this and that," and I'm very protective of Doctor Who. I feel like you are as well, like a lot of fans are, and like maybe like people
Yeah,
get we
that's
get
a really good
scared.
point.
Yeah, we get scared if like it goes too far into that. But what I will say is that shows have to be brave, and I think it was a brave choice to include that by Moffat, and I do have to respect and commend it. It's just that it's yeah, it's for a Christmas special, it was a lot. It brings you back to a point in time which wasn't fantastic, and it kind of makes you feel not that
Right. Yeah.
Christmassy. But it's reality of what
I think the
happened.
timing is quite effective, because
Yeah,
it's sort of past now, hasn't it? And I
yeah,
think
it's been
it's
like
almost like
yeah,
we're in a stage where we not we want to forget it, but it's not historic enough for it to be spoken
yeah,
about in that
yeah.
way.
I
And
agree.
so it
Yeah,
being acknowledged in that way is quite, again, it's a subversion of expectation thing. Like, oh, I wouldn't have expected to see that in it at this point in this year.
equally. And if like I lost a family member during COVID at Christmas time, and then I watched this, maybe I would feel really represented in that and have a different viewpoint. So it's very hard for me to sort of say it like generally, of how it was because
True.
it depends how it makes other people feel. And
True. You're going to get people that they're like, this is my favorite episode now,
yeah,
because
yeah.
it touches them in that way. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And I just think it didn't like say if it was if it was an eater's mum, I would have felt something. No, that sounds horrible to say.
Oh my goodness.
I'm an Anita
We get
stan.
it, Akash.
I
You
hate
like
Joy.
Anita.
I like Anita. Like I just like I just felt like Joy was not developed enough for them for me to then look at her mum being sucked into the star seed and just be like, oh well, yeah, it's
True. If anything, it sort of brought it back a little bit for Joy, having that
yeah,
included.
probably. It was probably good, yeah, to have that to yeah, round things off. I think it was a lack of development and giving stuff to do for
Mm.
Joy that sort of didn't really stick the landing, of that episode. And
Right.
yeah, I
That
mean,
makes sense.
yeah,
That does honestly make sense. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because
It was
it's
quite
like
Christmassy, I thought.
yeah,
Aside from the lack of development, I thought the idea, as much as I do agree that there could have been more expansion in general,
mm,
but her being like lonely on Christmas, and then the circumstances of the story bring her with the doctor, so then like she's not really alone on Christmas and she's sort of doing something. I thought that is quite in itself a Christmassy thing.
mm.
Um,
I
but yeah, I agree that she lacked a bit of substance in a way. Yeah.
it's almost like if Anita's not going to serve a future purpose in this show, I think it would have been a better option to have the Doctor and Joy stuck together for a year, and maybe like I
Oh
I
yeah.
I just feel like because Joy had nothing to do in those moments, that's why her character's lacking. And the idea of someone like you said who spends Christmas alone and who really has no one being like sucked on to an adventure which is really fun and it's Christmas and it's time travel, it would have been such a great opportunity to really view it from Joy's lens a little bit more of what sort of time and space and Christmas is. And I got the idea from the trailers that this was going to be like an Indiana Jones type of adventure. You know, he's got the brown leather coat, he's got
Yeah.
the lasso on the train. There's the tomb. I really thought like the briefcase would either get lost or something, and they have to go through different doors in the time hotel and different sort of spots in time, because I really found that whole sequence in like the Himalayas, for example, really cool. And I kind of wish that was expanded on a little bit. I understand there's only certain run times that these sort of episodes have, but the idea as well that they had, I don't know if you know this fact, but the actor that played one of the mountaineers on the Himalayas is an actual, he was actually playing his uncle, his great uncle, I think. Um,
Wow.
yeah, it's called Sherpa. He was like he was first summited the Mount Everest in 1953, which cemented him as like a global hero and spiritual icon. And then when Russell and Stephen were in the process of casting for that role, because he's like a Nepalese character, they found Sam, who's the actor who plays him, Sam Sherpa, and they were like, Sam has the same name as this guy. So they casted him without knowing that he's actually related to him.
What?
Yeah. And I'm like,
That
yeah,
is weird. That is like probably the most interesting bit of trivia about the episode that
yeah,
is ever
yeah,
going to exist, really.
exactly. The
That's
idea that
mental.
he was playing his uncle, I almost wish that they did give him actually more lines than initially was written. But I think he could have been like a character like Trevor or something, you know, and like the idea of someone coming from the door on the other side. I guess Joy
Right,
does
yeah.
that, but like from the past. Like I think that was a missed opportunity because they really touched. It's almost like they
Right.
touched really good moments that were never expanded in the show, I think, in this episode.
Yeah, I think like it kind of reminds me of what you said back at the beginning of the pod about the suitcase being a sort of
MacGuffin,
avenue
yeah.
for, yeah. And I suppose, yeah, it would have been nice to go
Lose
to
it
these different
or
corners of time,
yeah.
and that sort of catastrophe reaching different time zones. And imagine if you had
Yeah.
someone in the tent that got linked with to the case and then died, and
Yeah.
it would have been cool having that, yeah, jump around a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, should we talk about Trev? Should we talk about Trev a little bit?
Yeah,
Because
because I was actually confused as to not what happened to him, but more what he evolved into, you know?
I think his sort of consciousness, the explanation more or less is that his consciousness is uploaded to the Villain Guard system,
Mm,
um, which I suppose is ripped straight from Boom in concept.
exactly what I was exactly gonna say, yeah. If it ain't
It is a
broke,
bit.
don't fix it.
I mean, I'm sort of with you though in not understanding, in the sense of, well, how does that happen then? Is it just everyone that dies in a close
Yeah.
vicinity to a Villain Guard piece of equipment is uploaded? Maybe it
They
is explained and I just can't remember. But
no, they got to get a better firewall security if that keeps happening. Surely after the
honestly,
entire
this is why the
season's
Doctor can just get in. Like, honestly,
yeah.
sort it out,
He's
guys.
got to help.
Fucking hell.
Maybe it will go to a big like series finale with Villain Guard where all the people ever killed by Villain Guard turn into AI or something, and then AI takes over.
Oh my god. I mean, that would be topical. Actually, I know it's supposed to be talking about Trev, but this is reminding me of something else. It's because you mentioned the finale.
Yeah.
Um, so the theory that is going around at the moment
Mm.
is that the finale is about some sort of alternate universe. Now,
Yes.
I know that's really vague in like, what is that? How is that? What is that going to look like in terms of plot? It doesn't really tell us anything. But what it is consistent with is a theory that I had about Mrs. Flood, because I mean it's safe to assume that she will be involved in that finale in some way. There'll probably be a cliffhanger reveal, or I wouldn't be surprised if there is a cliffhanger reveal linked to Mrs. Flood in some way in that finale, like in between the two episodes. But I mean, she's broken the fourth wall, and I think she's like a god of stories or something.
Mm.
Um, because yeah, she's broken the fourth wall once. She seems to have this sort of relationship with other characters of, she always seems to know what's going on
Yeah.
and who people are and stuff like that, despite there being no link to her from her with like the other people and stuff like that, like the Doctor and stuff.
Yeah.
And so what was interesting was seeing these TARDIS models in the hotel, and the Doctor says, "Oh, there's loads of these online for some reason." So I think that the finale is going to be like the Doctor has found himself in, or is in now, an alternate universe where Doctor Who exists as it does for
Yes.
us,
Yeah.
like as like a fictional thing. So it's
Yeah.
like Doctor Who exists in Doctor Who.
Yeah.
I think that'd be really cool.
It sounds so exciting, even you just saying that. I'm like visualizing walking into like if it's like 2005, he's just walking into like Toys R Us and he's in the Doctor Who toy section. And he's
Yeah.
like
He's like,
why is
oh my god.
yeah, it'd be like bloody hell. What are character options doing? Why are there no toys nowadays compared to 2005? There's loads.
It
But
could be a
yeah.
crazy thing though, having it like, yeah,
Oh
so the
yeah.
Doctor realizes he doesn't actually exist, or he's just like an idea.
Yes,
And
in this
that's
universe, particularly, yeah, it would be very mind-boggling. And maybe it would make him question his entire sort of existence. Ever since he's found out he's been adopted as well, he's like Doctor Who almost to himself. He doesn't know who he is. So
yeah. So yeah,
really
that
would
could be
mess him up.
really, yeah,
I really
exactly.
hope
Yeah.
so, yeah. I have a feeling it will do that because, like they mentioned in Devil's Chord, there's that non-diegetic term, isn't it? When he hears the music of the TV show within the Devil's Chord, like
Yes. And it
of
would
like
be
Murray
so
Bernard.
Russell for a seed to be planted that far back.
Yes. Oh,
It's almost
100%.
like Sutek it being in the 60th.
Yeah. There
Um,
is there's another seed that's not been touched on in the Christmas special, but the Big Boss, that the Meep mentions, that Rogue mentions, like ever since we got this new boss, there's been like loads of paperwork and stuff like that. Could be Mrs. Flood. I have an I feel like it might be exciting to be someone else though, that we don't know yet.
yeah. I mean, it's likely going to be, or is it going to be a god character? I don't know. It's one of
Yeah,
those things where you can't really. I don't. I'm not aware of any popular theories,
yeah.
and nothing springs to mind.
Yeah,
Do you know what I
exactly.
mean?
We're just so uncreative that we can't think of how to
Yeah, we
justify
just
this to you
let's
guys.
end the podcast right now.
Should we just waffle for 10 minutes and try?
Yeah.
I think it's Cassandra.
Oh God, I think it's destroyed Cassandra. Mate. I think it's this
Yeah, I
or
got that
Chip.
for Joe's Christmas actually. I got him the action figure a few years back. I just feel like it's so useless. It's so
I see.
funny.
I never know. I never will know if I owned it or not because I owned a
Yes.
Cassandra that had the middle missing, but I
Oh.
don't know if I just broke it like I did with other toys because I just used
Yes.
it so much,
Yeah.
or if it was a destroyed variant.
It
I just
must have
don't
been a
remember.
destroyed. How does a kid? What were you doing to using her as a trampoline or something? We've got
Yeah,
we've got
maybe I was
so
like,
off
"Oh, the
topic.
doctor's gonna punch you" or something. Like, "Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, take that," and then I
We
just
were
broke the toy.
we were trying to talk to Trev about Trev, and we got on this tangent, and that completely describes Trev's character. I feel like if it was real life, Trev would be on this podcast just like being quiet the entire time and sort of laughing along. That's why his
Yeah,
character was so good. He's
he would
just so
definitely be
like,
just going along with whatever we're saying and
yeah,
just
yeah.
letting us do this sort of thing.
Yeah. I mean, what else like is there to talk about with him? He's sort of he started as quickly as he ended, you know. It was
Yeah.
really he
Well, I
was the
think it's interesting, yeah, how
mm,
he, yeah, he dies quite early in the story, but despite that, he's this sort of character of significance and has been remembered. And
mm,
I think that says a lot about his likability.
yeah, yeah,
And so then you sort of ask yourself, well, why is he so likable? And I think part of it is like there's that one of the things that's nice to watch is the fact that he's this side character that has no idea what's happening
mm,
or what the doctor's talking about, but is fully on side with the doctor despite that. And which I think is sort of an archetype of side character that we've seen in Doctor Who before. Like I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but you do
mm,
get these characters that are just like, "What the hell are you talking about?" to the Doctor, but they just sort of blindly go along with whatever he's saying and
Yeah,
stuff.
maybe Rita from the God Complex could be a little bit of a comparison there, because I got God Complex vibes from the
Maybe.
Time Hotel. Both episodes set in a hotel with doors that not necessarily led to different places, but had different things in them. That was my first connection because I think it was a Moffat story in there. And I also, what do you think of the fact that like in what year? Like Moffat's obsessed with like the year 5000 for some reason in the stories. That's like when we've
Nice round
returned
number.
space. Yeah, yeah. But they've just what? They've discovered time travel, which was not is that not a secret of the
I
Time
thought that.
Lords? And
Yeah,
then
yeah, I
he
thought I
just
had the
yeah.
same thought, mate. I think that it's like you could say that. Um, I mean, wormholes are a thing, aren't they?
It's like a gap.
Theoretically, like
Yeah, they
astrophysics.
mentioned that like a gap in space and time. Save this hotel. Maybe the hotel was built on like how Torchwood's built on the Rift. Like maybe it's a gap in time.
Yeah, yeah, that's sort of what I'm thinking. Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe it's
yeah.
like a natural occurrence that's been exploited rather than like because with the TARDIS, it's like you've created technology to
Mm,
be able to travel across the dimension of time,
yeah.
whereas having that doorway just naturally occur and
Yes.
using that to your advantage is a bit different.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's almost like the difference between going and harnessing the energy of the sun and then making a sun, or like
Yeah.
I mean,
Would
there's
it
different levels to that.
it's just like would it have not been better to have like hidden the star seed where the rift is, then the Doctor discovers that there's this gap in time. Because surely he has a responsibility as a Time Lord to make sure that time's safeguarded, like people just
Yeah,
going
true.
into like this that could cause havoc, though. Like all these kind of like rich people going to hotels. Like it's very hard for me to comment on someone else's work and be like, oh, you should have done this, done that. I don't know if that would have been more
Yeah,
entertaining than what we got. It's just like I guess
true.
when you get older, you need everything to be justified, as opposed to a kid where you just accept it. You're just like, yeah, like
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. It reminds me of like there's like this poster that you can buy. It's like a bit of Doctor Who merchandise, and it's like a timeline of the life of a Whovian. And it's like
Oh
you get the
yeah,
childhood phase where you're sort of fully enchanted by it and the
yeah,
immersion in the universe and stuff. And then you almost have your like cynical phase in your 20s where you can't escape from the critical lens. And I
yeah.
think that is it. And then I think after that, it goes into like parenthood stage where you show your kid Doctor
Oh,
Who, and then that
100%.
sort of re
I
enchants you.
I didn't obviously have it watching it with a kid, but when I introduced my girlfriend into Doctor Who and she'd never seen it before, I was watching Space Babies really cynically, and then she was bloody enjoying it, and I was like, that's exactly what I needed to really bring me back into it. Like it makes so much sense watching it with someone who's not seen it before. It can make you so it really changes your watching experience, I think.
Yeah, because I think in our heads, we, as a Doctor Who fan, we have almost like a rhetoric of like how things are supposed to be in
Yes,
our
yeah.
heads. Like, oh, the Doctor's meant to be like this. A companion should do this.
Yeah.
And then, like, I don't know, if something doesn't work in our own paradigm of what Doctor Who we
Mm,
identify as Doctor Who, we start, it's like this makes us feel uncomfortable. And then we start trying to logically justify why we feel that way.
yeah.
But
And it's like
I think, yeah, when you see it with another person, it's almost like, yeah, it's fresh. It's a
um,
fresh perspective.
you get into that danger as a writer of like, well, if it's not broke, why do I fix it? And you can just
Mm.
like repeat certain storylines or characters as the years go on. And I think a good example is, I don't know if you saw it, but on Unleashed for the Christmas special, they revealed a clip of season two, and it's
Ooh, I
yeah.
need to watch that.
So what happens is the doctor's walking around the hospital and he goes to the help desk receptionist and he's just like, "Oh, I just need her address. Please just give it to me." Like in a way of like how a kid wants a sweet when they're not allowed anymore. He's being cheeky when he does it. As that
Right.
happens, Belinda, who is the new companion, played by Verada Sefu, who also appeared in Boom as what was her name? The character's name?
Oh
Not
God, I
Minty. It
don't
was
know.
no. It was oh God, I forgot. I literally watched it so recently. One of the cleric soldiers. I'm sorry that I've forgotten your name.
Yeah.
Anyway, like the show has a history of repeating certain characters. Like a good example, what I'm going to use is Martha being in not Doomsday, Army of the Ghosts.
Army of Ghosts.
Yeah, as like a tortured scientist, and then she comes back obviously as a companion. That's probably because the casting directors see her, they think she's a good fit, she's underutilized, bring her
Right.
back.
Yeah.
So that has kind of happened to Verada, where she's now a companion in season 2. What's funny is that they're in a hospital, and Belinda, Verada's character, works in a hospital. I don't know if it's as a doctor or a medical student in training, but it really gives Smith and Joan vibes if you watch this clip. And
Right.
what I'm trying to like say with this
Hmm.
really convoluted explanation is like, how do you think with RTD2 that he's going back to things that works for him the first time
That's an
to,
interesting point.
yeah,
Yeah.
ensure the
I
success of the show? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, when you step back and look at that, you could sort of say, well, is repeating the same thing going to work? Like,
True.
especially where you have such a committed fan base, I think novelty is, as much as it's a risk in some ways, you got more chance of sort of keeping the engagement. I don't know. I think it's funny that you say that about the repetition, because you've almost got this same dynamic in transition as well between Ruby and this new companion, in the
Mm.
sense that Ruby's sort of like the Rose that she's sort of quite broadly relatable, um, sort of domestic human, and then you got the sort of transition to a more intellectual
Yeah.
companion, also someone of an ethnic minority. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um, yeah, you could sort of draw the links there, I suppose. I mean, what I'm looking for is like an origin story that is a bit more interesting. I think with Ruby, I know that she's an orphan,
Mm.
but that felt very much limited to serving the plot and creating a story arc that is just focused on plot rather than character.
Yeah.
Um, I know that she's meant to care about who her mum is and stuff like that, and that's evident, but I don't think that was really used to say a lot about who she was, or
Mm.
why the way the doctor companion relationship is the way it is. Um, so yeah, I think I would like an origin story that's a bit more interesting. Have a
Yeah.
person with a background that's a bit more interesting. Maybe someone that's not contemporary, someone that's a bit further in the future, that is familiar with
Yeah.
technologies and stuff like that, would maybe be a bit more interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, there's scope for
Um,
that. Yeah. And
yeah, imagine having someone from the future that's from a future. They're going to be in a world of future politics. What does that look like, and how does
yeah.
that shape how they see things and stuff like that? So yeah, I
Yeah.
think we're just
Yeah.
looking for something more than what
Yes.
we've got before. Do you know what I
No,
mean?
100%. And I think like something that people have kind of been hounding for is maybe a past companion as well, because at least with history, you kind of know exactly what their society kind of would have looked like. I mean, you did get that guy in
Yes,
series 1, was it like with Rose? Was he called Matt or something? Or he was in the Van Statten Museum, and he was
Adam.
like,
Yeah,
oh, for fuck's sake, wasn't that set in like 2010 or something, or like 2020? It's not even
it's
a
like
future number.
2012.
Yeah, oh no. All right. Say if you did 2052 instead, then yeah, I could get that that would be exciting to see, because it'd be like, oh, this is maybe like where my grandparents grew up, and then like seeing the world through them, and makes me
Yeah,
connected to
right.
that. It does need
True.
to,
Yeah, very good
yeah,
point. Yeah. What a
yeah,
good idea. Yeah,
because it'd be a good way to give social commentary in a way that isn't
yeah,
forced. That if you were talking about COVID or politics, um, it would do it in a way that it would give you an interesting lens from someone from the future, but it would be commenting on stuff that's happening in real life right now. And yeah, so I think you're bang on there with that. That would be exciting. So yeah, I guess like if we kind of call this sequence of like stuff that we want to see in like future seasons, then that would definitely be something. But in terms of like season 2 specifically, what did you think of the trailer that we got at the end of the episode?
I thought it was. Look, I mean, I think we didn't see a lot, but I think
Yeah.
they look like Doctor Who adventures. I think that's the thing. You got robots. You got like
Yeah.
these different. Oh, what's going on? Oh, Doctor, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that. I think that it's got credibility, and I think the main reason I say that is just coming off the back of season one, and season one being of quite a consistent quality
Mm.
when it comes to standalone episodes. You
Yeah.
know, I know I sort of touched on it before about uh, Ruby and the story overarching plot lines.
Yeah.
Me not being sold on that. You know, we don't have to go into that in any
Yeah.
particular depth, but I think that yeah, as standalone episodes, season one was good. You know, as a sitting down and watching the weekly adventure,
Yeah.
I think they were good episodes.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to having more content to watch, and I think we have more variation of writers this time as well. So
Yes.
be
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, it reminds me of something that Joe said to me actually, because I asked him what his favorite episode of season one was, which I'll ask you as well after. But Joe told me that it was the Legend of Ruby yeah, the Legend of Ruby Sunday, which was the penultimate episode, and I
Oh,
kind of
okay,
agree on him on that. It had the excitement of RTD1 with the TARDIS flying.
absolutely.
I've talked about it a million times, but I think what Joe was sort of getting at was that it really had it balanced RTD1 sort of nostalgia, but it brought us into this new era, and you just didn't know where it was going to go. It had suspense. It had all those
Yeah,
ingredients for a season finale. They didn't
yeah.
particularly stick the landing, but if they can emulate that,
Mm.
hopefully they've emulated that more in season two. That's what I really want to see from season two is emulating more of that feel. But
Ooh, yeah,
yeah,
nice. Yeah,
yeah. I
yeah.
mean, what was your favorite episode from season one? Just out of curiosity.
I think my favorite episode was probably Rogue. And I
Mm.
think that's just purely on the grounds of I had the most fun watching it.
Yeah.
If I'm saying sort of objectively what I think the best script is, 73 yards is probably
Oh
going
yeah.
to top it for me. But
Yeah.
I think Rogue, I just really enjoyed as a standalone episode, and seeing that for me, that's where the strength of the season lies. You know, I've got to say the one that I enjoyed watching the most was that one.
Yeah.
I just think it was the most fun. I thought the dynamic with the Rogue character was interesting,
Mm.
um, and sort of added uh, a bit more to what would have just been a sort of standard historical. I
Yeah.
thought the social commentary was good. Um, yeah, I really enjoyed that one. But I'm totally on board with you in terms of the feel of that episode 7,
Yeah.
and it having that sort of feeling of escalation to it, like coming
Yeah.
into it, particularly with, I think, opening it with that sort of red herring of Susan was really good because it gave it
Mm.
some emotional substance for the Doctor, sort of having
Yes.
those stakes.
Yeah,
And that meant
really,
so that as soon as we were into it, we were like, oh shit, sort of thing.
and yeah, actively mentioning his granddaughter, which hopefully does get explored a little bit more. Like Carol Ann Ford, I don't know how old she is, but
But
if she's not in this RTD2 season, then they're missing something.
I
But
don't
you
think
should
it's going to
go.
happen. I think we got fucking baited, man. I
What
think
you
because
never? How can he say I'll go see her? Oh, that was my mistake. Maybe I'll see her one day. She's not gonna be there for that long. I don't know. I don't want to be mean. Like they got to do it once. Do
I
you
would
not?
love for them to do it.
I think it would work as a little, not end credit scene, but like right at the end of an episode where he just goes. Like if he could spend a year on Earth, obviously it would be insane for him to do it. It's been so many years, but I think. I think they have the potential to do that in a really nice way. I hope that they do. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's something that I would like to see in sort of like future seasons because again, you can only just be in the present. There's so much speculation of whether this show is going to get cancelled. You know, for the past few years, its viewings and ratings have kind of gone down as streaming has become more of a thing, and they've adopted this model, which is this Disney Plus deal, which allows the show to be put on this platform. Um, there's a lot of speculation that the show is going
Hang
to
on,
get
mate.
cancelled.
I'm so sorry to cut you off, but I'm
No.
really annoyed.
Oh, fair enough.
I'm so sorry, mate. I don't know. I know that's going to be tough editing wise, but
No, that's okay. I'll pause it. How was it, Jay? Did he?
it was very quick. It was very. It was like it was. I mean,
Yeah,
maybe best not to go into it. Actually,
yeah,
not
yeah,
too
yeah.
scripted.
These all these guys can literally hear us. They can't see anything. But you know what? When you gotta go, you gotta go.
Hey,
And
look, this is my toxic trait, man. I've experienced this at work all the time. Being on Zoom doesn't help. I feel like I'm back at work, interrupting my colleague and saying, "Look, I'm so sorry." Some of them just know now, though. Ones that I have meetings with regularly, I go to interrupt them. They're like, "Do you use the toilet?" I'm like, "Yeah."
yeah. Oh man.
Oh,
But
honestly.
in terms of I don't even know what I feel like I was waffling the last couple of seconds there.
We're talking about Susan.
Susan and coming and whether this like that this the show's gonna get cancelled and all this sort of stuff. Just like all I'll just
Yeah.
say is like season 2 is looking good. I'm excited to see what it holds.
Hey, look, there's going to be things in there that we're clueless right now. We
Exactly.
don't even know if that it's going to come up, and it's
Yeah,
going to be
yeah.
crazy.
We gotta have our minds blown. Everyone here is gonna have their minds blown. But yeah, just like in terms of Joy to the World and the Christmas specials that we've had. I wonder actually, I'm gonna Google how many Christmas specials Doctor Who've had. Because did they start in 2005 or did they ever do it in the classics?
Well, you've got technically one Christmas special from the classic era.
Was it first
Um,
Doctor or was it?
it is a first
Yeah.
Doctor episode called The Feast of Stephen. And it sits right in the middle of the Daleks' master plan. So it's actually part of the Daleks' master plan.
Oh.
But it's sort of delivered in such a way where you can skip the episode and like the Daleks' master plan still makes sense. So like,
Hmm.
basically at the end of I think it's episode 6 of the Daleks' master plan, the TARDIS dematerializes, and
Yeah.
then in the Christmas special they just land in the Christmas special location. But like if
Okay.
you just skip it and go to the one after that, the TARDIS lands again somewhere else, and the story just
It's
continues.
pretty smart. It's kind of like Time Crash, that little children in need uh
Yeah,
thing
yeah,
where it's like, yeah, you can kind of skip it and wouldn't know anything, which is what I
yeah,
compared our
yeah. That's
podcast
amazing.
to. Joe's a past incarnation or a future incarnation, and he's just
Yeah,
kind
that's
of
it. Yeah, guys, just don't worry about this one. Just skip
yeah.
it. It's
How many if we did? I wonder if we didn't bring it up, do you think people would have just been like ignorant to the facts and just thought that Jay's voice had like changed or something?
yeah,
I hope
should have tested it.
yeah, I hope Joe didn't take offense to that. You're unique, mate. I
You
actually
are.
I can't
All
find
us
how many.
Joes, you just treat us the same, honestly. Don't worry, Joe. I know what's going on. I
Yeah,
know how it feels.
yeah, there's 18 Doctor Who Christmas specials, including 2024.
Wow. 18.
Yeah.
God. What's your favourite one?
Oh,
Should we say that's a closing
yeah,
question?
yeah. Let's do that. Let's do that. It wouldn't joy to the world.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but
Wow. That's not very Christmassy of you,
yeah,
Akash.
yeah, yeah. Christmas is over, man. Uh,
It's
I'm
true.
not ready for it. But in terms of my favorite, I rewatched. Did I rewatch? What was the one?
Oh,
I
yeah, you
actually,
rewatched them all, didn't you?
yeah, well, not all of them. I did from like Christmas Invasion, Runaway Bride, which I've seen obviously a lot of times. I will say that it was a Christmas Carol because I hadn't seen it in so long, and I love the music in it. So I'm gonna go Christmas Carol.
I think that's a really good opinion because that would probably be mine as well.
Isn't it? Just robbed you of your talking
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about it. I just think it's like a really nice story. I feel quite
Yeah.
emotionally connected to it. That thing of
Yeah.
I don't know, the Scrooge character. I can't remember what his name is now.
Kazran. Kazran.
As
Yeah.
Kazran, yeah. That
Yeah.
sort of thing, if you lose your soul and then you find it again
Yeah.
or you get reminded of it, that's just quite, I don't know, there's something about
100%. I
that.
feel like when you get a bit older as well, and like life, you go through ups and downs in life, like you can
Yeah.
unfortunately relate a little bit more to the Scrooge character when he's like a bit just like,
Honestly, yeah.
yeah,
Like, yeah, you get a bit older, you lose your childhood wonder,
yeah,
and you're also at an age where you're now conscious of that. And
yeah,
yeah, that can make us a bit cynical. But you know what? Christmas subtracts from that a little bit. sort of return to your childhood.
Exactly. And
self.
I hope that this episode has returned you to the magic of Christmas. I realise that it's coming out a
Yeah,
little bit later than Christmas.
mid-January.
Yeah. But you know what? It's time is relative, as they say.
Timey-wimey. It's Christmas every day.
Timey-wimey.